I'm Mike Veerman. I'm a writer, producer, and director for the Bell Creative Agency at Much. And this is the Mike on Much podcast. I got my headphones on from the minute I'm up till the minute I go to bed. I got my headphones on every day of my life. Gonna wear them until I'm dead. Welcome to episode 3. I'm sitting here with my friend and producer, Max Kerman.
Producer is a very official term.
I know, I like it.
Yeah, it's cool. I like saying, I'm a producer.
I know, I heard you already put it on your business card.
I put it on my Twitter handle.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Seriously?
Max_Kerman, co-creator / producer of the Mike on Much podcast.
Oh, man.
I know, we're high-fiving right now.
I hope the mics picked that up.
Yeah.
Max, how was your weekend?
I had a good weekend. We missed you, though. For our listeners, Arkells play an annual show up in Muskoka, Ontario at the Kee To Bala. It's a great time. It's a bit of a reunion for all of our friends. There's about 50 of us that go up there. They go to our friend Jay's cottage. They get drunk. A school bus takes them to the gig.
There is a party bus that takes people from the cottage to the Kee To Bala.
Yeah, and it's great. And our one friend Julian is proud to say he's been kicked out for his 5th year in a row of the show.
As far as I can tell, Julian's only crime every year is taking his shirt off and being sort of very enthusiastic.
Yeah, but bouncers don't like it when you take your shirt off.
I guess.
Yeah. So Julian got kicked out of the show once again. We saw it happen from the stage. He had his shirt off.
Seriously?
Yeah, oh yeah. It was hilarious. Nick and I were both laughing as he was getting carried out.
Did they carry him?
Oh yeah. So basically what happened was Julian...
What song were you in?
It was later in the set.
Okay.
I could see him about halfway through the show kind of charging towards the stage because he was probably upset that he hadn't been kicked out yet. So he's like, what do I got to do to get kicked out? So he took off his shirt, which is his go-to move. The bouncer told him to put the shirt back on. And then he just put the shirt on his head because he thought, he's like, I'm putting it on my head. And then a bouncer started to escort him out. And on his way out, he started high-fiving all the other bouncers.
Were they giving him high five?
I don't think so. I don't think they're very pleased with him. And then Sam, his girlfriend or fiance, posted a photo of him flexing with his shirt off outside of the venue. And she said, 5th year in a row, this is my honey, or something like that.
Good times.
Yeah, so you missed that.
Hey, wait a second. Actually, for our listeners, our friend and pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham, was a part of this trip. Was Shane up there? Did you see Shane?
Yeah, he was up there. He wasn't very social. He was kind of in a weird mood. His ex-girlfriend is now dating the drummer of the band that was opening the show.
Right.
And everybody knows Shane's a little sensitive, and so we were all on high alert. So as Julian was being carried out by bouncers, I just saw him pass Shane, and Shane was just sort of staring blankly at the wall. But I think he's doing okay. But then after the show, we all got on the party bus. We went back to the cottage. There was some skinny dipping.
Oh, there you go.
I don't think I've ever been skinny dipping before.
Did you get nude?
Briefly.
Semi-nude.
Semi-nude.
You like to keep it classy.
Yeah, I guess being in a bathing suit is semi-nude, though, isn't it?
Really? Yes, that's semi-nude. So what? Like, did you kind of?
Yeah, I was just briefly, and then I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, and I, put my pants back on and continued swimming.
All right, but Max, we have a great show today.
I'm very excited.
We have Menno Versteeg, the lead singer of Hollerado, and we also have Annie Murphy, one of the lead actresses in CBC's Schitt's Creek.
And what do they have in common, Mike?
Well, they're married, Max.
They're married. And for our listeners, this was actually the first interview that we ever did.
It's very true, yeah. When we conceived of this podcast, I knew that I'd be interviewing people, and that was pretty exciting to me. But I thought for the first one, it'd be one-on-one.
And ease you into it.
Yeah, I thought I would ease into it. And I got a call from Max. He's like, I got us our first interview. You're interviewing Menno Versteeg from Hollerado and Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. It's going to be awesome. They're married. You'll have a lot to talk about. I'm like, Max, I've never interviewed one person. How am I going to interview 2 people?
And I'm like very optimistic, and I think very highly of you. I was like, Mike, there's nothing to worry about. They'll have lots of stories. They'll be great. And sure enough, that's sort of how it worked out. And then I remember after they left, because they did the interview in this very apartment.
Let's set the scene. So this is what you need to know. I've never done a long form interview. I've never done a short form interview. And all of a sudden, I am interviewing 2 people at once. And I got to split the time because they're both, equally compelling. One's the lead singer of a band that's toured the world. One is now starring on a national television show.
All right. So I call Mike. I say, Mike, my friend Menno from Hollerado, his wife Annie, they're in. They're going to do the podcast. We got to interview them.
I'm like, where are we going to interview them?
We're going to interview them at your apartment.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, and I said, get those goddamn cats out of here.
So I'm like, I've got these cats running around. My place is kind of messy. I've got the singer of Hollerado coming over and the actress from Schitt's Creek. I'm like, I got to clean my place.
You keep pretty tidy though, right?
I keep tidy.
Yeah.
Nah, not necessarily clean. You know, I don't dust or anything
There's
like that.
a difference, I suppose.
Yeah. So I'm like, but I got to set up the place and I got to do my research. I've never done an interview before. And so I'm kind of having a bit of a panic attack. And you're like, oh, it's going to be fine.
It's gonna be great.
You think everything's going to be great.
Yeah,
though.
that's true.
And so I think everything's going to probably fall apart. So I'm trying to do my research and they're on their way over here. And then finally they knock on the door and long story long, they couldn't have been nicer and more patient with me as a novice interviewer.
After they left, we sort of looked at each other. We hugged. I think we embraced for like a solid 10 seconds. And we're like, we did it. And we called Shane and me, like, Shane, we did the interview. And then like a couple weeks later, we were talking about that day. And he was like, yeah, it's like you guys had just done a bunch of cocaine.
We were very excited.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's get to it.
I actually asked Menno today, I was like, do you think they're going to ask us how we met?
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, I'm just going to say it.
Nothing to be.
You came here to tell the story.
This is an open, honest conversation we're going to have. Can we say
Oh, it's
okay, I've been trying not to swear as much, but it hasn't been working out very well.
Don't censor yourself.
Okay.
All right, go.
Thanks for coming.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
I think we're going to start with Annie because you're on a show called Schitt's Creek. And I feel like there's billboards of you literally everywhere in the city right now.
So
All right, that's the moment the tides just officially turned. There it was. That was the exact second.
You wanted to go first?
No. I'm teasing.
Yeah, it's been a really, really bizarre, incredible year of my life. After like 7 solid years of not incredible, exciting things.
Right.
Yeah,
Pretty dark there for a second.
No, not right off the bat. I didn't mean it to get dark that fast.
There's already tears.
Yeah, I know.
It's a deep podcast.
Inconsolable already. So I booked the role last March, and it's just kind of been this bizarre whirlwind of pinching myself and working, like actually working as an actress.
Yeah.
For the first time.
What was the process like getting it? I mean, did you audition?
Yeah, so I went to.
Should we start with the day before you got the audition?
Okay, well, yeah. So let's get dark. Let's go. Let's go
deep.
right there. I was in LA for pilot season after doing 3 pilot seasons of just like pounding the pavement and just nothing happening.
Had you been doing that for the last 7 years? Like always going down?
So I'd been. I guess this was my 4th. Last year was my 4th pilot season, and LA was always this really, really daunting, scary place for me. But Menno came with me last year.
All the
moral,
years?
moral support.
Except for one. When I left on tour.
Yeah, when you left on tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was there and it was just, I would get so anxious before these auditions, and a lot of the auditions I was going in for were really terrible audition, like pieces.
The roles were
like TV
feeling
shows or shitty movies or whatever.
Like imagine the American stuff that doesn't make it because it's too bad. Like,
Right.
you know, the pilots for like the show that's going to be the other version of 2.5 Men, but it's not even good enough.
Yeah.
Imagine playing like, you know, the girlfriend of a guy on that, like, you know,
That's
Anyway,
interesting.
so,
But I mean, that's an interesting point because like, how do you as an actress, as somebody that's, you know, you really want to do the work for, you know, the the artistic endeavor.
Yeah.
How do you sort of reconcile that in your brain? Like, oh, I'm reading something that I'm not really feeling, but I want the work.
Well, I mean, and that was it. And it was kind of at a point with me that I'd been coming so close to so many parts, some of which I really liked, some of which I didn't. But it was at a point where I was like, I need to make money, and I'd really like to make money acting. But it was at a point where it was like, well, maybe I'm going to have to just, you know, get a day job and focus on that for a little while.
There's been a couple like messages on the answering machine or car rides or whatever where the topic is, I'm gonna be a secretary, I better learn how to type faster, I'm never gonna do good at this, call my agent, tell her to get me typing lessons. Inconsolable.
So, yeah, it's like it was a bit rocky, and like just after putting so much energy into something that either you really like, or even worse, putting energy into something that you think is a real piece of shit, and then getting rejected for that.
Right.
Like, so anyway, I was at a point where I was kind of at the end of my rope a little bit, and LA was really a heavy load to carry.
How long were you down there?
A month and a half last year.
Wow. And you were there for the full month and a half as well, Menno?
Yeah, I came down with you that time.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, but anyway, so the day before I got this audition, I had a really brutal audition. I just like butchered it, and
For a big part too.
for a big part. Oh, it was a test. It was my first test for a big NBC pilot, and it was like they could make a skit about it. It was just like everything went terribly wrong, and so.
Did you test with like another actor that was already cast? And all that, or?
No. It was just in this big auditorium full of like 15 angry-looking executives.
Right.
And so I did it, and I butchered it, and I just like hit this wall. And so that whole day, I guess the next morning I woke up and I had an audition, and I was like,
I'm not doing it.
Can't do it. And I cried literally from the moment that I woke up, well into the morning, took a little break for lunch, and then kept crying. And then Menno was like, get in the car. And I was like, I don't ever want to get anywhere ever again. I don't want to. So then he like bundles me into the car and drives me to the ocean. And he's like, get out of the car. And I was like, no. He's like, we're going swimming. And I was like, I don't like swimming, even though I love swimming in the ocean. I hated everything that day. And so he like gets me to the
It's cold.
shore.
February in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, like drags me to the
Freezing.
shore.
You still made her get in the ocean?
And
Yeah.
he's like, take off your clothes. And I was like, it's cold, Menno. And he's like, take them off. So we like take off our clothes on this public beach
Right down to our underwear.
and kind of throw ourselves into the water. And
The only
me
other-
crying the whole time, by the way, just this horrible wreck of a human.
The only other person there was like one guy like walking in the distance, and then there's a couple sleeping on the beach under sleeping bags, and the guy of the couple, his leg was slipping, was out under the bottom of the sleeping bag, and there was a what are those bracelets they give criminals for their legs?
Oh, yeah, like a tracking bracelet.
Like a tracking thing on
Oh,
his
I forgot
leg,
about that.
and I was like, wow. Anyway, that's one thing that sticks in my head from that day.
The criminal having a nap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, but so we like went into the ocean and cried in the ocean, and then came out of the ocean.
Did it work?
And-
Did you feel reborn?
Well, no, I was like, I'm cold, and now I taste like salt. But then I got back in the car.
Before we got in the car, the guy who was walking the distance walked up to us, and he looks at us and he goes, "You guys are from Canada, aren't you?" No.
Shivering in our underpants on the beach, like
Swimming
yes.
in
We were like,
February.
yeah, he's like, yeah, it's only Canadians who ever go swimming in February.
So I get in the car, I check my email, and there's an email from my agent for the audition for Schitt's Creek. And I look at it, and it says like it was just called Levy production, like it hadn't been named yet, but it said this is a Eugene Levy show, and it's shooting in Toronto, and like everything just it was the casting directors that really have my back here in Toronto were the ones that were casting it, and so I just started to read this email, and I'm like, okay, this is just, it felt like some kind of page had turned, and I was like, if I don't get this part,
It's done.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. So it really picked me up, and I like studied my ass off and rehearsed, and then I went into the room, and it was Dan Levy that was in the room, like sitting smugly on a couch, like terrifying.
Had you known him before from just around Toronto?
No. I mean, I knew who he was, and I'd watched the after show and stuff, but I did the audition, and it was the first and only audition I've ever walked into and walked out of fully confident.
Yeah, the only time you've ever come out and were like, I killed that. And you had another audition that afternoon, and you had another audition for some other thing, and she walked in and be like, I just killed that. And I was like, you want to skip your other audition? We're going to Palm Springs. And she's like, we're going to Palm Springs.
You blew up the other audition.
Yeah, I did. It was terrible. It was a terrible thing to say.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that.
But I was like, you know what?
that's
Let's
we did.
just. So then I got a call. Actually, Dan called me a few days later to say that he loved the audition and that they wanted me to read for another role back in Toronto. So I went and auditioned for the other part in Toronto. And then I got a call to say that they wanted to test me for both of those parts. And then so I went in and did the test in front of another group of very much nicer looking executives. This was like the CBC execs as
These were the
opposed to the
Canadians
NBC execs.
with
And
kinder
they were all
faces.
very warm and friendly and awesome. But Eugene was in the room too with Dan. And so,
You said to me, well, at least I'll get to meet Eugene Levy.
yeah.
That's all I get out of this.
Yeah. So I tested, and then it was 2 weeks of just nothing. Like nothing. Not nothing. Me like full of anxiety for 2 weeks, like literally holding my phone next to me at all times.
Was there like an amount of time where you're like, I'll be fine. Like I'll start worrying after 3 days or 2 days.
Well, yeah, I was like, I'm going to give myself, because it was on a Friday, and I was like, I'll hear by Wednesday.
Right.
And I didn't hear all of that week. And I think it was the following Thursday that I got a call. And on my call display, it said Eugene Levy. And I died. And then picked up the phone, and it was actually Dan. And because I had come to terms, I was like, they're going to call me and they're going to say, thank you so much. We fought for you, but it didn't work out. And, it was going to be a thank you call as opposed to you got the part call. And then, so it was Dan, and I pick up the phone and he goes, hey, Annie, it's Dan. I just wanted to call and thank you so much for auditioning. You did a great job. And I just wanted to call and say how much we really enjoyed your audition. And then nothing. And then and then I was like, you're welcome. I had a really lovely time auditioning for you.
No.
And nothing. Just like pause.
Just let you hang.
Yeah, just let me hang.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, big time. And then he was finally like, I do have just one quick question before I let you go. How would you like to play my sister? And I was like, I obviously burst into tears. And
I still burst into tears
Said
when I hear
yeah.
that story.
That's such a phenomenal story. Were you standing next to her when she was getting the call, or?
No. I was at rehearsal or something, and then I came home, and it was Jake's birthday party. And
Yeah.
we were living in Jake and Bianca's house for that time, actually, because it was another long story, but we were living with my grandparents that whole year.
because our house
Burned down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so just it was the middle of winter, and there's only so many grandparents, days you could take, especially someone. So we decided to live at Jake and Bianca's for a bit. Jake, the drummer in Hollerado.
Yeah.
And then, so it was Jake's birthday party, right?
Yeah.
And so I came home to just celebrate the birthday party, and the consolation, if Annie didn't get the show, was that she was going to come on our European tour.
Right.
And so she came, and she's like, I'm not going to Europe with you. So that was it.
Yeah.
That's how you knew.
Yeah,
That's
and I
how-
cried for like 3 hours.
Yeah, and then it was Menno's turn to cry like a little wimpy baby.
Right.
You're talking about working with sort of Eugene Levy,
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara, these sort of Canadian
Yeah.
legends. This is where I'm just testing out my segues. You guys have worked with Dave Foley. How did that come about? How did you guys sort of like forge that relationship?
Right. So we've known Dave for basically since we first started. When we very first started the band, I somehow convinced the guys, I'm like, we're going to book a tour, and I'm just going to convince everyone to quit their jobs and be broke, and we're going to buy a van, use all the money we have, and just hit the road and see if we can see what happens. So I booked a tour across Canada because I had contacts in Canada, and I booked a few dates in the west coast of the U.S. and then a couple in L.A. And I was like, okay, we'll just start with that, and I'll book some more along the way. So we finally made it to L.A. and we had a couple gigs, and then I couldn't book anymore. I couldn't even really get us home. And so we're like, what do we do? Where are we going to live? So we had a friend, John Kastner, who we had just kind of met him. He's just been he's like a grandfather of bands.
He's gonna
type
be
thing.
so angry. You said grandfather.
I mean a spirit grandfather. He's just one of those guys who's helped out every band, just really believes in bands he believes in. While we were there, John found us a couple shows, and one of them was just kind of last minute at a bar in LA called Spaceland, and because no one had heard of us, no one was there, but John was like, I'll invite some of his friends. And none of his friends came except for his one friend Dave, who was Dave Foley. So we were playing this show in LA, just not knowing what we were doing, not really knowing what we were doing with our lives, and such big fans of Dave. And to this empty room, and it's just John and Dave. So that was pretty cool. And at the time, Dean and Jake weren't old enough to get into the club because it was 21 plus, and so they'd let you play and then they kick you out right after. So we had the van, so we sat in the van, we invited Dave in, we got a bunch of beers. I bought them because I was old enough. And we just sat in the van drinking with Dave, and we had just found out that day or the day before that we got money to make a music video. So we're like, Dave, you want to be in the music video? And he'd had a few, so he was like, yeah, sure. As long as you fly me down, I'm in. And then he's a real supporter of music. He's like one of those people who really is in it for the right reasons. I wish there's a lot of bands I meet who aren't in it for as good a reason as he is. He's just a music lover galore. He knows tons of bands. He's just helped us out along the way a million times.
And as someone that's up for anything.
Really
like
up for anything.
Like he'll I don't know if he'll do whatever, but he's really game to make a bit of a dick of himself.
Yeah, we were like
for the sake of comedy.
A couple of years ago was one of our first headline show in Buffalo, and we were like, tickets are moving kind of slow. It's a headline show. We really got to try and sell this out. Hey, Dave, if we fly you to Buffalo, there's really cheap flights. No, not first class. No, economy on like the back of a Southwest. Will you do a stand-up set and open for us in Buffalo? He's like, yeah, no problem. Just shows up and.
That's brilliant. Well, that's such a great idea, and amazing that he's willing to sort of just hop on a plane and get in there.
He's a great guy. That's all I can say.
We were talking about this before. You were saying that your label just got 4 nominations at the Junos, which is pretty phenomenal. What led to you, I guess, starting that label and taking everything in your own hands, I guess?
Well, we've always been like, do it ourselves. As I said, just playing in punk bands, you kind of learn that it's rare that someone comes along who cares more than you do. They do come along, and we've been lucky to meet a couple of those kind of people, like our manager, who cares more than we do. But those kind of people are really few and far between. So we've always kind of tried to do things ourselves until we find someone to do that job who cares more than us. And so we found those people in certain aspects, but basically, we couldn't find a label. When we finished our first record, no labels in Canada wanted to put it out, like really none. So we were like, well, then we'll put it out. So that was basically how it started. And then it went well with us. And we're like, well, let's see if we can use this to sign some other bands. And took it slow and really signed some acts that we really, really, truly believed in, like in every single facet of them as people and as a band. And their music and their work ethic, and that's it's starting to come to fruition.
Do you find it difficult to sort of run the business of the label and also, be a songwriter, be in a band, and then oversee other bands and sort of their business as well, being on the label? Do you find that difficult? That sort of
it is weird. It's two different hats, really two different hats. And one thing I find interesting about it is that I can't be. What's the word? Objective about my own band. It's impossible. So I'm playing in a band, and I'm like telling people to do this. I'm like, okay, here, don't worry. Like, we'll get you an American record deal. No problem. I know how to do this. I can do this, but I can't do it for my own band. But I can figure it out for this other band. Just listen to what I say. So it's especially before we had a track record of like being able to get these bands signed off on good American labels. I'm like, yeah, I know I really don't, probably not the best person to listen to, but I really know what I'm doing. Like, just trust me, this is the right move.
Do your own bandmates ever, is there ever the concern that it's like, we're spending too much time focusing on these other bands and maybe our band should be the priority?
Yeah, totally. And it's a fair concern. Like, when this latest project we've been doing, like we had to write 111 songs, and with the label this year also being the busiest year ever for the label, I didn't put as much time at the beginning as I needed to, and I'm lucky I have bandmates who are so talented and best buddies and super understanding, super supportive. So they kind of really took up the slack, which has been great on this album of 111 songs. Not that I was ever in a position to write all of them, but like, Nick is singing and writing, not quite half, but maybe about half of them. Like Dean and Jake Dean's never sung a song before. He's singing like 4 or 5. Jake's got some great tunes on it that he did everything on it himself, from drums to guitar. Like never even saw it until it was done, It's like, yep, I just finished a Hollerado song. It's done, and you didn't hear it or play on it or write any one lyric, Like, way to go, Jake, that's awesome.
Is it easy for you to sort of concede control? Like, you're just like, yeah, let's, you did the song, roll with it without sort of touching it?
Yeah, it is. It's hard at times. Oh no, Annie's giving me the stink eye. No, it's good. I mean,
It's just more of a questioning face. No, but I think if there weren't 111 songs, if it was like a normal, regular old album length, it would be more difficult for you.
it certainly would, but it's been a really good lesson for me because relinquishing a lot of that control and just realizing that everyone is super capable, and I really have faith in what everyone's doing. Has been a great lesson that I think is I'm 94% sure it's going to trickle over to when we start our real album in a couple weeks.
The first song, Firefly, is about how I guess your guys' condo burned down.
It did.
How did that, what happened there?
We don't know. Luckily, we weren't home because all our neighbors wanted to blame us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're like the youngest people in our condo building, and have a different lifestyle from most of them, and so it was like immediate, I'm sure, in every one of their brains, like, these punks, like, what the hell did they do? Like, light all the cigarettes and then pass out from all the drinking. And
it must have been the
10 cigarettes
exploding.
Yeah, but we actually still don't know it wasn't anyone being an asshole. It was some kind of like freakish sun refracting through a vase, lighting dead flowers on fire, and like, it could have been as weird. And
just some like insane confluence of events that couldn't be predicted or prevented.
And the shitty building of the condo, like our actual apartment, it just like went up.
Kindle, right?
Yeah. And then also we found out that the material that our deck was made out of was petroleum based. So as soon as the firefighters shot water on it, it basically exploded.
Right.
Yeah, so when they came in, it was maybe salvageable. Apparently, the fire you could have kind of salvaged it. Would just be the deck and the a little bit of the top floor. But once they did that, the whole building was just like.
And it was an inferno. Like there are pictures. We didn't actually get to see, and I think luckily didn't get to see the extent of it, because by the time we got there, it was out.
Basically out. Yeah.
I mean, emotionally, was it like did you lose everything? Was it completely dead? Like, how did you feel? Like, did you get a call? Were you away? How did you?
It's pretty funny. The call was from Nick, as usual. So,
no, it was from Joel first.
Oh, yeah, Joel Clifton.
Yeah, and then
ex-Dino Bones guy for the local.
Yeah.
So we were just we were at my parents' cottage for the weekend. It was this beautiful weekend, and we were super relaxed and coming back into town. And
we had a meeting with Mark Riccardelli because Mark and I were going to go through old footage of Holland being bombed for the So It Goes video.
Yeah.
So we were looking through old footage, like stock footage, and
of things on fire.
And Mark and I were talking about it to each other, like, wouldn't it be nuts if just someone drops a bomb in your house and it's all gone? You wouldn't be so mad. And it was 5 minutes later, we were actually having that conversation, and
then I get a call from my buddy Joel, and like, poor guy to be in that position. He was like, "Hey, Annie, your place is on fire. I'm so sorry." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, I just wanted to tell you, like, you guys should probably get here." And so, like, we just knew that, we didn't know anything else. And we were on the east end of town, of course, in like rush hour. And so Nick lived right around the corner at this point. And so I call Nick to get like an account of what's going on. And of course, Nick being Nick is like, "Annie, it's going to be okay. Everything's fine. It's just, I think you guys probably won't be able to sleep there tonight. But
you can stay at our place.
But like, yeah, it's going to be cool." And then, so I was like, "Oh, Menno, it's like," to me, it was just some scorched area of our deck or something.
And I was thinking to Nick, I was like, "Oh, like, you put it out, right? Like, you went and dealt with it. Like, it's done now." Like, I kind of thought like Nick had dealt with it.
And then we like
So by the way, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, someone went in there. One of our friends just like figured it out.
Yeah, so we pull up to this like smoldering ruin of a building.
Like 15 fire trucks.
Yeah, and like all of our shit, it was our entire, like, the fire ate up our entire bedroom, bathroom, and then all of our stuff on the bottom floor was smoke and water damage beyond repair.
A couple things we kept.
Like plates.
Yeah, we could keep our
We owned
plates,
plates
some of our plates
after that.
And a guitar.
A guitar made it out.
Yeah, which is awesome. One of the firemen because after it was all, they kind of got it safe, and you could go in because the bottom floor wasn't completely gone. They're like, and the fridge was there. They're like, go in and see if you have any medicine or anything, and you can grab your computer. And my computer was in there. I didn't have it with me for some reason. So weird that I didn't have it with me. And so I was going to see if that would work. It didn't. But so I went to grab it, and we had a bottle of whiskey that was in the fridge. Or
Yeah, so we literally grabbed like a guitar and a bottle of Jameson.
And some plates.
Yeah.
And that was it.
One fireman, as we were going up, because he just security, was like, that was a really nice guitar. I wrapped it in a blanket and I put it under the table. So I guess as he came in, and like once it was, a little safer, so it didn't get trashed with all the hoses and stuff, he like just wrapped it in a blanket and put it under a table.
That's fascinating.
I thought that was pretty
Must
cool.
be a guitar player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said he was.
That's a lot to go through. And I know you were saying, Annie, that Menno he's gone down to LA for pilot season. And
Yeah.
I know that you've toured with Hollerado. You've gone on the road with them as well.
Yeah, I have.
It's super fascinating to me that you guys are sort of in this unique business, the arts, you're touring with the band, you have a record label, you're acting. I guess my question is, first of all, how'd you guys meet? Because it's just such an interesting thing to sort of both come up together like this.
So it's kind of a juicy story.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not that juicy.
No, it's not really that juicy. I was dating Nick, who's in Hollerado.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, heyo. Nick and I dated for like 5 years, from like 15 to 20-ish. So we grew up together, basically. And Menno was the older dude down the street. Like he and Nick lived on the same.
Just to frame, you guys you're all from Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Nick and Menno lived on the same street. So Menno was always like, and Menno was in bands and touring. And so like Nick took me to a show in Hull. I'd never met Menno before. I was 15 years old, and it like completely illegal to be in this sketchy, terrible bar called Le Bop in Hull. It's probably closed down. But I saw Menno play, and I was like, I just thought he was the dreamiest thing I'd ever seen. But he was an old man. Like it wasn't like a serious crush, because
it didn't seem
he
plausible.
was 22 and I was 15, and
So
those, like
weird.
that's a very huge age gap in those days. So he just kind of like came and went, and then
Yeah, we didn't see each other for. I mean, not that was a triumphant meeting or anything, but
Did you meet her that night?
I mean, vaguely in passing.
Right. Do you
But
recall
that
it
was
all?
vaguely.
Right.
That's our first.
I remember it very well.
I remember it.
Anyway, so like right around the time Nick and I broke up, which was not a bad breakup, it was just we've been dating for 5 years and we're really little still and like need to see the world. So Menno and Nick had started Hollerado right around that time. So Menno was kind of in my picture a little bit more.
So we met.
So we met, and then we started hanging out.
Yeah, and it was hard for a bit.
Yeah, it was hard.
it was
for a little bit.
difficult.
Well, yeah, it wasn't easy on Nick, that's for sure. He was.
So you and Nick, like you had this relationship. Had your band started yet with Nick? Like had you been?
Yeah. I mean, we'd been, Hollerado had been together, and like I thought it might be. It was, it was kind of a risk. It was a strain on the band for sure, but we're really just best buds, and like we were able to get through it and like be
And if
totally
that
stronger.
like if that
It wasn't-
situation is going to happen with anyone, thank God it was with Nick, because he's
very
really
understanding.
practical, and like once he realized that it wasn't just me being like, look what I'm doing.
Sure.
Yeah, that was really important.
Once
Like,
we-
it wasn't
yeah.
just like us being jerks.
When you guys realized that there was something going on, did you hesitate? Did you consider not getting together? Like
Totally, big time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an intense thing to do to someone you care about so much, is just start dating
Your friend,
his friend.
of course.
It's a weird situation to be in.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely we had our reservations, but yeah.
Yeah. Nick
It-
was the first person I asked if I could marry you.
And anyway, and now Nick is like happily married, and we see each other. All of us hang out like a disgusting amount.
6 times
and
a week.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, once everyone
So-
becomes adults and things
Yeah,
settle
yeah,
down,
yeah,
you
yeah.
realize how sort of these things, they heal themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly time. And time and patience and understanding.
Yeah. So
There you go.
that's what happened.
There's
That's
that
how we
story.
met.
It's great.
And
it was a little juicy, actually.
Oh yeah, it was a little juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I think I wrote a few songs for Nick about that whole thing.
That was nice of you.
Yeah.
Did they make a Hollerado record?
One of my favorite songs I've written ever called Age of Communication. It was on record. It was on Demo in a Bag 5. That's one of my favorite ones. So, it was a bonus song on White Paint also.
Okay.
So that one.
Being a couple in the industry, do you ever run lines with her? Do you ever talk to him about songs?
Tell us, Menno, what do you do?
Running lines, yeah. So self-tapes are a big thing if you're an actress, if you're an aspiring actress. And for a while I refused to do them because I was sure I was the reason Annie wasn't getting these gigs.
And
they're like,
I'm still not 100% sure that that's why.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that maybe I could have gotten a couple of those parts. Because Menno, as talented as he is, for many, many, many things, he's very talented.
Thank you.
But not acting. Not acting.
Yeah. I try though.
And he just gets incredibly frustrated. It's like a real nightmare of an experience doing a self-tape with Menno because he's so aware that this is not his strong suit that he gets angry, not at me, but at himself for not being able to do a good job at my self-tape. So
And
luckily I got this job. And
I know. Well, there was never a self-tape involved in this job.
No, there wasn't.
So that's why they're all in the room auditions. The self-tapes, I just feel like they'll hear the reader and they'll be like, this actress has friends that are this terrible? She can't be good.
And have you ever showed her a song, asked her advice?
All the time. Annie helps on lyrics all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written a couple of lyrics in my day.
Yeah, Good Day at the Races is like a good chunk. There's a few key lines in there that are Annie's.
I would say full verses.
40%?
I would say 60%.
Here we go.
But yeah, we it's really cool to be. I'm so happy Menno's not an actor. I mean, first of all, because he
Actor
wouldn't
couple's
be.
the worst.
No, but I'm glad that we're not in the exact same industry, but we're in this kind of the same business.
Yeah, you understand each other's worlds without being directly in the same branch of entertainment.
Exactly. So yeah, and it's fun,
Which is weird because we never really knew that either of us would actually be in these worlds when we got together. I was fully expecting to, I don't know, God knows what I would do if I didn't do this, but some other job. And there's been many moments not too long ago when you were pretty sure that the arts was not going to be your career.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a fortunate circumstance that we've for right now that it is both of our careers.
Max, you want to add anything? You've been so diligent over there.
Matt, yeah, thanks. Can't wait. The podcasts are so fun. We love listening to them all the time. And are we done?
We're done.
Great.
Done. Shane, how's it going, man?
Pretty well. How are you, Mike?
I'm good. I like pretty well. That's
Yeah.
that's an improvement over last episode.
Yeah, every day I'm getting better.
That's the hope for all of us.
Yes, that's right. Shane looks like Hunter Thompson right now, by the way. He has his sunglasses
I
inside.
feel like Hunter S. Thompson right now. I'm sensitive to light.
Since when?
Always. Really? Yeah.
I guess you do wear your sunglasses.
You always ask me about it. Like, Shane, why are you always wearing them? To look cool? Or you, like... Yeah.
You do look cool, though. That's
50% of it, but 50% is actually for light eye reasons. The lighter your eyes are, the more sensitive you are to light.
you're sensitive to light and questions about your sunglasses.
Yes, I don't like that.
So, how's your week been? Tell us what you've been up to. You seen any good movies?
No. Pop culture expert.
What'd you do last night, Shane?
I was on a dating site, I'll call it, and I went on a date.
Okay, wait. So you're on Tinder.
Okay, yes.
You match with this girl.
Yes.
Is she funny in the comments when you start going back and forth?
Well, she wouldn't talk to me for a lot. Like, some of them on, you got to work on them. So it's like I've had people, I've sent them 12 messages, which again makes me seem a little psychotic, and they haven't responded. And then
just keep trying?
Well, I don't know. I'm bored. All I said was, just go on a date with me. And she goes, fine. Just one word says fine.
That was the winning text.
That was the winning one.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a mood too. Maybe she's bored one day and she's like, okay, I'll slum it with this Shane person for a while. So now it's connected to Instagram. So Tinder used to just be 5 pictures and you're done. Now I'm going through like tons. I'm like, holy shit, this girl is absolutely loaded. Like rich. She's not like hammered in every photo, but
So she's rich.
she has a lot of money. So
You can tell this from the Instagram.
You can tell it so clearly. So I'm a pretty blunt person. I'm like, oh, you're a rich girl, aren't you? Just haha. And she's like, no, not at all. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, well, where do you want to go on the first date? She's like, I could go to McDonald's and be happy with it. And that's such like an overcompensation for a definite rich girl. You know what I mean? Like, so I was on guard and I'm like, I really don't want to spend I don't have a lot of money. I know she does. And I'm probably going to get sucked into her world more than she's going to get sucked into mine. So I say, let's go to local, which for me, that's a very high-end, expensive place kind of for me.
It's in Liberty Village.
It's in Liberty Village. And to me, that's like taking a girl on a nice date, a really nice date. And then she's like, okay, Liberty Village. And I, like in her tone, she put an exclamation mark, but I could tell she was like faking it. So then an hour before the date, she's like, are we really going to local? I'm like, yeah, why? What's wrong? The whole McDonald's speech really moved me. Why? What's going on? She's like, the food there is shit. I'd rather eat at McDonald's. I was like, okay. I was like, you're lucky I didn't take you to Warehouse. She's like, Warehouse is the shit. I love it there. I was like, okay, well, that's $5. I'll do that for sure. Like, that's cheaper now.
For our listeners out of town, Warehouse has a $5 menu. You can everything on the menu is for $5.
So I'm sucked in. Like, that's the trick. Like the old bait and switch. I'm like, oh, perfect. She's like, I work near Warehouse. I'm like, I work near Warehouse. It's right across from where we work, you know? So yesterday, as you know, you were commenting, Mike, when I came into work, that I wore my extra large Toronto Raptors shirt.
Yeah, you were like an XXL.
And I'm wearing a shitty hat because I'm like, whatever. Then she's like, oh, instead of Warehouse, what if we go to Earl's? I'm like, Earl's, that sounds like a cool like burger place for truckers or whatever.
You've never heard of Earl's?
No, it's this place for like Bay Street douchebag types. You know, guys who wear sport jackets and nice shoes and stuff. So now I have to go home and wash a shirt like a... I actually just threw it. I didn't wash it. I threw it in the dryer to get the wrinkles out with some ice cubes. I wore this shirt and took off my hat and like made my hair look nice and showed up, and then went to the bar, had a $10 beer when I got there. She was pretty on time.
So who covered the bill?
I covered the bill, and she acted like she might cover the bill. And throughout the thing, she's like, I actually like making more money than my men. She's like, it's an ego thing. I just like to always have more money. I'm like, sweet, she might pay for the bill. But then she's like, I was on a date once, and the guy didn't pay for the bill, or he wanted to go splitsies. So I just walked out and said I was going to the washroom and left.
She told you that?
Yes.
Which is a hard contradiction of what she just said.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm right now. And then she's like, another Caesar, please. Another Caesar. I get another drink. The bill, oh my God.
How much was it?
Guess.
$120.
It was like $175.
Oh!
I hate myself. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I couldn't even look at it. I knew it was going to be a lot. I just flipped over the bill, didn't look, put in my debit card, punched in,
Got declined.
20% tip, got declined, washed dishes all night. As she laughed at me for being a peasant. And then, yeah, went home and jerked off. But yeah,
That was your date.
That was my date, yes.
Wow.
Are you going to go on another date?
Oh, yeah. She's pretty hot. Shady is back. Did he ever leave?
Oh, my God.
Good times. Well, do you have you seen any movies? Can you talk us?
I can't afford a movie right now, Mike. Can I borrow your scene points?
That's it.
That's all.
That's the episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. A special thank you to Menno Versteeg. A special thank you to Annie Murphy.
They were great guests.
They were great guests. Great marriage.
Great.
know what that means. I'm not there every day. I don't know what their marriage is like.
Yes. Great marriage.
It seems like a great warms my heart, you know. It shows that it can happen.
Yeah.
People can do it.
People can do it.
Yeah. Thanks again to Shane for coming on and sharing his tales of woe. You can follow us.
You can follow us on Twitter at Mike on Much and on Instagram at Mike on Much. Our website is much.com/Mike on Much. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes.
All of the artwork you see for the Mike on Much podcast is done by
Jenna Gregory. You can find her stuff at jennasdoodles.com.
The Mike on Much podcast is produced by Max Kerman, and I am your host, Mike Veerman. See you next week if we don't die on the weekend.